Hello, everyone. We are thrilled to welcome all of you here for our webinar on the topic Bringing Business and IT Together with Low Code, featuring Forrester and MTN. I'm Tribin from Zoho Creator Marketing Team, and I'll be your host for the day. Business and IT teams have been at the opposite ends of the table in most organizations. While business teams seek speed to market and adaptability, IT teams struggle with an avalanche of request and compliance norms. Today, our panel of experts will discuss how low-code platforms can be a differentiator to bridge this gap. Let me take a moment to introduce our panel. First and foremost, we have John Dreimer, Vice President and Principal Analyst from Forrester Research. John is the co-inventor of the term low-code in the game of application development and delivery for multiple decades. Joining John is Leila Kakar, Senior Manager Data Analytics from MTN, one of our largest customers, to share her experience with Zoho Creator. Finally, we have Haider Nizam, Vice President Product Management from Zoho, to share how we have converted our learnings from the past 13 years to features on Zoho Creator to help bring business and IT together. At the end of the webinar, we will have the question and answer session. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box on the left-hand side panel. So without further ado, let me invite Haider to start the session.
Thank you, Tribun. Hello, everyone. I'm Haider Nizam. I'm the VP of Product Management at Zoho. So we all know almost all the enterprises are taking up some sort of digital transformation exercise. But interestingly, only 20% of them are really successful. Let's find the reason of the low success rate. Okay, we have found primarily three reasons why the digital transformation exercise inside an enterprise is not working out. The first reason what we found from our survey is 70% of the IT team is already spent on supporting and maintaining the existing application. And they're not able to devote time for the new digital transformation exercise. And the second reason what we found is IT is always have a shoestring budget, and they're not able to mobilize the right talent, the skills needed for the digital transformation. And the third reason what we found from our survey and talking to our enterprise customer is IT has always been bombarded with a lot of requests from the business users. In fact, they get 5x more what they could handle as part of the team. And that all constitutes a failure of the digital transformation exercise, and only 20% of them succeed. So what we have done in Zoho Creator as being a low-code platform is to really bridge that gap between the business demand and IT supply. And we make sure we democratize the problem and give the power to the business users so they themselves create the application what they want, and in turn seek the help of IT only when needed. So what kind of tools we are providing to the business users? So we are trying to provide simple visual tools to translate any idea a business user has into a web application. We provide a drag and drop interface to build a web application or a mobile application, or to put together a logic, we provide a logic builder. And of course, any business are juggling with tons of spreadsheets. So they want to convert a spreadsheet to a web application or mobile application. We provide those easy, simple visual tools. And to create reports, we provide a report builder. And most importantly, business users want to organize the data in a very easy way. So we provide a visual schema builder for them to define the entities and also define the relationship between the entities. And it doesn't stop there yet. Business users want a customer-centric way of building the application. Let them to build customer portals by providing page builder tools where they can themselves put together a page and open up to the customers. And in fact, business users hate to write code, or they don't want to get into the nuances of database or design problems. So we abstract all the problems for our business users. So what kind of tools will we give it to our IT team? So for IT, what they are more interested is the complete governance and control of these applications. And they're already overwhelmed by the infrastructure maintenance. So we provide zero maintenance in terms of we take care of all the infrastructure, and we provide options for them to quickly deploy this application either in the cloud or on-premise or AWS or Azure kind of public platforms. And we provide easy way for them to distribute these applications, mobile applications especially, through our MDM. So Zoho Creator has its own MDM called Zoho MDM. And most importantly for IT, all they need is complete application development lifecycle management, from sandboxing to versioning to backups to audit trails. We provide all set of tools for the IT to have the complete governance. And also the IT will be most interested in understanding who does what in the system, and they want to have fine-grained permission control inside the Zoho Creator platform, and we provide the control. And last but not the least, the IT team needs the pro code tools. So whenever a business user hit a roadblock, they seek the help of IT team. They knock the doors of IT, and IT want to write a Java code, a JavaScript code. We provide the pro code tools for the IT team. So we provide all the full set for the business users as well as the complete governance and control to the IT. And we have Zoho Creator as a platform has 13,000 organizations, paying organizations using Creator across 170 countries, and they've already built more than 5 million applications using the Zoho Creator platform. So what our customers have built is, let me walk through quick use cases or case studies in terms of defining what kind of usage pattern we could see adopted by the enterprises. The first usage pattern what we see is the enterprises are taking up one business process and trying to completely automate using the low-code platform. That is one sort of scenario what we see. And second usage pattern what we see is some of the customers, enterprise customers, are pretty much running their business, complete business on top of Creator platform. And third usage what we see is where enterprise customer want to modernize their legacy application. So they use Zoho Creator to modernize their SAP or Oracle legacy applications using the platform. So let us quickly see each usage scenarios. The first one is completely automating the business process. So Samsonite has taken one complete business process after sales and service business process, and within 3 weeks, they're able to put together a meaningful application into production and able to automate a complete sales and repair, after sales and repair process using Zoho Creator. So the challenge in front of Samsonite was they want to quickly develop and deploy, and also they want to pull and push information from their existing systems. So the Creator application has to really talk to their existing applications, and in record time, they should be able to put it in production. So they're able to pull this process. The process is to automate a complete after sales and service. A customer walks into the retail store and and drops a bag saying that I want to repair this bag, and the request goes to the centralized service team, and then it has been routed to the technician, logistics been taken care, the inventory is being taken care for the repair work, and all the invoicing and financial, and finally intimating the customer, and finally customers picking up the finished product from the store. So the complete service after sales process is completely automated using Zoho Creator. So the second usage scenario is where a customer, this is an olive production company. So they procure raw material olives, and then they process it, and then they sell the bottled olive to the market. So the end-to-end manufacturing ERP, pretty much the business complete runs on Zoho Creator. So they have saved millions of dollars building the complete ERP on Creator, and this is their process where you could see like the complete from manufacturing to the inventory to the delivery, and in fact opening up the customer portal so that customers can see their orders. Pretty much everything is done. The ERP is built on top of Zoho Creator. So this is the second usage scenario we see, like where pretty much the business is complete business running on top of Zoho Creator. And the third kind of application scenario what we see is an existing customer trying to modernize the existing legacy application and slapping a custom application on top of it. You could see a recycling company is using a SAP or Sage system, and they are trying to modernize it using the Zoho Creator application. So what they have done is they have opened a customer portal on top of the SAP or Sage system, where their customer can use the customer portal to log into the system, and underneath all the information will be pulled from the SAP system and will be shown to the customers. And whatever customer inputs, it goes back to the SAP system. So they have slapped a modern web application on top of the SAP and Sage application. This is another third usage scenario what we typically see. And other common scenario what we see is a complete non-programmer, like a farmer, able to build a full-blown application. So there's a case study where a farmer has built a farming management system using Zoho Creator, and now this farmer is trying to productize it and completely trying to sell it to other farmers. So you could see that a beautiful looking invoice being built by a non-programmer without writing any HTML or CSS, and they're able to put together the complete invoicing and the full farming management system using Zoho Creator. So these are the typical usage scenarios, how our customers are using Zoho Creator. So let us get into the second part of my presentation, where I'm going to brief you about what are the building blocks or what are the pillars of the Zoho Creator platform. So there are 5 pillars. The first one is, of course, the custom application creator, where the goal of this custom application creator is to abstract the complexity for business and IT developers, so that you as a customer or a IT developer or a business user should be able to focus only on the business logic, and rest of it, like the security, scalability, and all sort of infrastructure problem, will be taken care of by the creator platform. So what kind of abstraction? One example is code abstraction. So you as a customer drag and drop things, drag and drop the logic, and we generate the code for you. And we have support for our own scripting language called Deluge. And if you are a IT developer or a pro developer, you can write in Java, well-known programming languages like Java or Python or Node.js, and deploy it in Creator. So to greater extent, you use a drag and drop interface without writing programming. You should be able to build comprehensive applications. But when you hit a roadblock where you want to write some Java code, we also provide that option. And Creator, it abstracts not just the code problem, it abstracts a device problem. For example, you build a web application, we generate the mobile native iOS and Android application for you. And we abstract the database complexities for you. And we abstract the design problems for you. For example, a customer who built a web application 5 years ago, they should be able to use the latest design pattern by switching to a new design template. That's a design abstraction for you. It doesn't stop there yet. In fact, using the custom app creator, you can create application which can use AI component inside it. So you can create an AI-driven custom application using Zoho Creator. You can create a custom application that incorporates robotic process automation. I can give an example of a customer who built a web application 13 years ago, even before a smartphone was launched. Now they are able to get a full-blown native mobile application without writing a single line of Swift or Java code, and they got the iOS and Android app. So that's accessing the latest technology without really getting into the details of the technology using the Creator platform. So this is the AI builder what we provide. So you can build a custom application using an OCR field, or you can build a sentiment analysis custom application using the built-in AI components. So the second piece inside the Zoho Creator platform is the integration creator, where we are providing options to build applications, build logic, where you can connect to 350 cloud application and legacy applications, and we already provide 500 plus pre-built workflows. For example, we support all the well-known vendors out there in the market on each category, and we support 350 plus vendors out there in the market. This is a classic example using integration creator, where a customer raising a ticket in a ticketing system, and then you find the sentiment of the ticket, and if there's negative sentiment, you want to escalate it and push it to your Slack channel. So this involves 2-3 vendors, and you can build such kind of integration using the integration creator. And the third piece, the third pillar of Zoho Creator platform is the process creator, where we let end users, the business users, to put together the process, all the steps in the process in a visual way. So you could see the purchase approval process and all its steps. And we also let users to define what has to be done before each step and after each step inside the process. You can define what kind of action you want to take before and after the steps. And also we let users to measure the process. And for example, take this recruitment process, where you could see that number of resumes, the recruitment process we got inside the recruitment process, and finally how many people have hired. So the process creator let you know the process usage inside each step inside your process. And also what you measure is what you can improve. It also gives how much time it took for you inside each step, so that you can optimize and make each step inside your process more productive. So that's a process creator. And the fourth piece is the report or dashboard creator, where you as a business user or a business line manager or a CXO would like to blend data from different custom application or any third-party application. So we let you to create reports and blended dashboards, beautiful looking dashboards using the dashboard creator. And we also open up the SQL layer for you. If you are a database administrator or a IT person, you can write SQL queries. You can slice and dice the data and do fine-grained querying of data inside the system. And also it is very scalable. We have customers using billion records inside our system. And the fifth pillar inside the Zoho Creator platform is the serverless services, where we have provided the complete pro code layer inside the Zoho Creator. As I said before, whenever a business user hits a roadblock, they knock the doors of IT, and the IT has to write some custom Java code or a Python code to really connect to, let's say, a legacy system, or want to use the APIs to connect to the system. This, which means that we have to provide a pro code layer for the IT team. So that pro code layer is the backend as a service, what we provide as part of the Creator platform. And we also open up the function as a service, where you can create functions using Java or Python, and you can really open up to the business usage using the pro code platform. And also it doesn't stop there yet, the pro code tools. Zoho Creator itself provides 45 plus business applications, and we are trying to open up all the features, all the microservices inside that 45 plus application to our customers in using Zoho Creator platform. For example, we have an online word processor called Zoho Writer. So there's a microservice called Grammar Check inside the Zoho Writer product, and we are trying to open up as a microservice. And when you as a customer trying to create a content management system inside the Zoho Creator platform, you can use the Grammar Check as part of that application, and which will be available as a microservices. Similarly, we are trying to open up all the hundreds of microservices to the Zoho Creator customers so that you can drag and drop and use them inside your application. This is a testimony of a conglomerate in Philippines, Abortus Group, where the chief digital officer who have done the digital transformation has really done the complete bridging, where they're able to democratize the problem, give the power to the business users, accounting team, admin team, HR person who are not programmers, and they're able to develop web and mobile application with minimal help from the IT. And they've already developed 46 applications, and they've saved more than $650,000 US. So that's a kind of bridging what we do, where we bring the business users, the IT together, and give the power to the business users, yet have complete control and governance to the IT. Thank you.
Thank you, Haider. I think Tribun has briefly introduced me. So I'm the Senior Manager Data Analytics within MTN. So we'll give a quick introduction of what MTN is. So MTN is Africa's leading telecom operator. We are the 7th largest mobile operator in the world based on our subscriber numbers. We have approximately 223 million subscribers, 63 different nationalities of our employees, and we are operating in 24 countries across Africa and the Middle East. The products and services that we offer is also really broad and innovative, from digital consumer to enterprise and financial services. I will discuss during this presentation one of our use cases with Zoho Creator, just to get an understanding of why we chose Zoho Creator, or why in the first place we were even looking for a solution. I will explain what the situation was in the past and what we were dealing with. So within procurement, one of the most essential data that we are using is the P2P data, the procure to pay data. From that data, you will, for example, get your savings, central and local. You will get your throughput time. And as you can understand, that's one of the most essential things for within the procurement business. So what was the situation before we even looked at a low-code solution, or before we even started using Zoho Creator to build a solution? As I mentioned before, we were operating in 24 different opcos, meaning that if we wanted to collect all that data from them, we were sending out Excel files through emails, meaning that somebody would manually send out 24 different Excels to 24 different stakeholders and ask them to provide them the data. In that Excel sheet, there were no controls, there was no workflow. So the data that you would get back would be in not a great shape. It would definitely not be smart data, so you couldn't immediately start analyzing it, but it took time to harmonize the data, to restructure the data, and to merge the data. Moreover, it even took a lot of time to make sure that they would follow up and send them reminders and make sure that they would even get back to us on time. As soon as that data was merged together and was harmonized, you can imagine that it was on very different levels, as we were dealing with 22 different operating companies that were of different maturity levels, even different languages, French, English, and also the complexities were also different within those countries. As soon as we put in a lot of effort to make sure that we harmonized it and cleansed it, and we did a lot of data mining, then translating that data into the insights and visualizations was also a manual exercise. So based on this all, we spent a lot of time manually trying to prepare the data without even spending time on what was really valuable, and that's the insights, translating the insights into actions and making sure that our business became more efficient. So one of the solutions would have been a low-code solution. Moreover, a solution within Zoho Creator. So why did we choose this Zoho Creator solution, and what type of benefits did it give us? One of the most important benefits, I would say, is the plug-and-play character of the Zoho Creator solution. As you can imagine, those 24 different opcos and operating companies would also have 22 different systems that were not integrated with each other. That's why we needed to send out all those Excel separately, because there was not one database where all the data came together. Which even made it more difficult was if we even found a solution that would be able to integrate with the system, those 24 different opcos had 6 different ERPs. So even finding one solution wouldn't mean that it would be able to integrate with all 6 different one of them. So by choosing the Zoho Creator solution, the users were able to always access it as it was web-based, and no time was wasted to integrate the systems, and the implementation was really fast. I briefly mentioned the second benefit too. I mentioned the workflows and controls. Previously, when we were using the Excels, there were no controls at all. So the user was able to put in whatever they wanted. With the new solution, we made sure that there were controls and built-in workflows in order to actually force the user, when they would put in the data, that the data would be smart and harmonized, eventually that it would be ready to analyze immediately without the user having to do any manual work. Another important factor was also the audit trail, and Haida also touched upon this. Imagine getting 22 different Excel files that you would receive, and you need to get back to the stakeholders, ask them what they exactly mean, then manually change the data again, then merge the data together. As you are doing all of these manual actions, there is no clear-cut way of, for example, a month later getting back to it and knowing what exactly you have done to have a clear-cut audit trail. With this new solution, it's really clear which user logged in at what time, when they put in what data, how did they change the data, and also the data is already of great quality, so you do not need to change it in any sort of way. The notifications that I mentioned before, sending reminders, making sure that you receive the data on time, also now happens in an automatic way without any human interference, to make sure that at least you get your data on time. It will keep track of which users or which opcos have already submitted their data and which are behind, and automatic notifications will be sent. Once a user puts in data that doesn't make any sense by the logic that we had put in, they would get an error and a notification, also making sure that the user is aware of that they're putting in data that they need to check again, because there's a high probability of the data not being accurate. Another really important factor are the real-time insights that we wanted. Imagine getting the data and then spending almost a week of harmonizing it and cleansing it, and then also spending some days of translating it into actual insights. the data will no longer be real time, and you are wasting a lot of time by doing things that are not necessarily adding value to the business itself. Through this new solution with Zoho Creator, we were able to automatically push the data to our dashboards and translate it also in an automatically way into the insights for the stakeholders and for the business to take a look at it and understand what's going on with their P2P data. So how does this roadmap of our Go went, and what were the things that we paid attention to? So the most important thing that was our vision was to start small, scale up according to our organic growth, meaning that we started with simple data points that we had already in our Excel, so that the users would be able to understand the process, they would be familiar with it, and they would know what was going on. Eventually, these data points we translated into a blueprint of notifications, workflows, and restrictions. After these, we wanted to make sure that the insights that we would get would make sense. So we did a sanity check with the users to figure out which type of data we needed to log in. And we also got the feedback based on these sessions. For the rollout, we made sure that we trained all the applicants, and we had both web training as classroom sessions. We had FAQs and video demos in 3 languages for the users to be able to, every time whenever they didn't use the application for a while, to go back and to get an understanding of how they could use it. Once this was stabilized and the users were comfortable using the application, we made sure that we added more data points, and these data points with external data also, and both of them we translated into real-time dashboards, which was of a great value for the users, because before, when the business wanted to know, when they put in a request, they needed to send emails or call the procurement team to see what was going on with their data. At this moment, there was no interference anymore, because the stakeholders could themselves log into the dashboards and see real-time what was going on with their request. So how could we create value beyond the data? Because it's great that you have data, and it's great that you are making sure that the data is of great quality and that it's harmonized and structured and smart data. But how can you go one step further? So I just briefly mentioned it, that the dashboards and making sure that the users have insights, both the users and the stakeholders, that time is saved and that visibility is created, and that would make sure that the productivity is increased. What we also made sure of is to combine the procurement data with other data. I just mentioned that we had different ERPs with different data. We also have spend data, supplier data, that were also from different systems that were not connected with each other. So we made sure that all the data that we created in our solution with Zoho Creator was pushed to a database where all the other data for the different systems were too. These data sources were put together, and we made sure that by doing this, that complex problem statements that would cover multiple data sources, we were now able to also answer in a fact-based mannered way. So how do we make sure that the solution that we built within Zoho Creator was actually a sustainable solution? Well, the following 5 points helped us do it, to make sure that the approach that we used would increase the adoption of the application. We made sure that there were KPIs for the adoption in place. So we would track the adoption and also make sure that the opcos would get a KPI based on that. We did a certain amount of branding. As you can see on the slide, we called it Boom, gave it a logo, and made sure that that was the brand of the application. We had a walk-in clinic, meaning that we held several webinars, workshops, and one day in the week we had a whole day where all the users could just walk in with their questions, issues, and they would be answered on the spot. We made sure that the certain or extra features that Zoho Creator offered, that the users were also aware of it and they would use it. One of the features that was really a hit with the users was the voice to text, meaning that whenever they were even on the run or they had a quick thing to update on the application, they could just make sure that they would use the voice to text and the data would be logged in that way. We also created several news flashes with the newest updates, and we made sure that the users were up to date of all the new technology and features within the application. The dashboards were also a big promotional material because it provided visibility to the stakeholders, and it also increased the accuracy level. So once this was all done and our solution was stable and it was ready to be used, as you can see on the slides, there's a screenshot of how the application looked. We were looking, of course, at future plans. One of the future plans was to make sure that the current application was upgraded, meaning probably more data points, that the dashboards had more advanced insights, and also new use cases on top of this. This is, of course, only the procure to pay data, but there are more data that at this moment are probably being stored or collected through Excel, through Word documents, and using Zoho Creator and building a solution that's easy to use, quick to implement, and also make sure that you have an audit trail and the application has certain controls and workflows, will make sure that the accuracy of that of the data is increased, and it would also make sure that you're saving time and you can spend this time on more value adding things. So the last slide that I want to show is the slide that will provide you some insights of how the application works. So on the left side is how the web-based application looks on your laptop, and on the right side, how the web application looks on your mobile phone. And in the middle, the second screenshot is the screenshot of our dashboard that will show you the real-time insights and what's happening with your P2P data. And now John will take it over from here.
Start off, John.
Okay, thank you. Great to be with you today. I'm here to describe the research we've been doing in the low-code market and why I think there's a great opportunity that low-code affords to us to better align business and IT. First, who am I? You may or may not have heard of me or Forrester Research. I'm a VP and principal analyst at Forrester Research. We are a research and advisory firm that does business worldwide. Several years ago, 6-7 years ago, I invented the term with a colleague named Clay Richardson. I invented the term low-code to describe application development platforms that we were seeing rising rather quickly and being adopted rather quickly. My background is 25 years in the software industry, most of those as an analyst. So I've been in software development for a long time. I do not have stars in my eyes about low code. Low code is one of a number of options that people have out there. And there's been some recognition of the research we've done. It's about 6 or 7 years worth of research. So first, alignment is an old chestnut. We've been talking about business IT alignment since I got involved in the computer industry back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Why are we talking about it now? I think the answer to that is because of the imperatives of digital business. Every client that we work with is in some phase of their journey from manual and analog business operations to digital business operations. And they're really being driven by the demands of their customers, whether they be consumers or business to business buyers or patients or students or citizens in a country. Those customers expect immediacy. They expect to be treated as individuals, and they expect to see information that is individually relevant to them. And they expect us to be intelligent about who they are and what their status is with us. And this presents really serious challenges and opportunities for our software strategies, because we've got to be able to deliver immediacy and relevance and intelligence. But we've got to do so with software on just an unprecedented schedules at unprecedented speed and scale. And speed, of course, is the watchword here. Business opportunities are very fleeting. Business cycles are faster than ever. So we just don't have time anymore, long times anymore, to deliver software that the business needs. This is a big problem. And alignment essentially is a problem of aligning different domains. And so there's a strategic element to this that I think is very important to recognize. The two domains are business and technology, or business and software. software technology. This is a slide that we put together to describe what we believe has to become a new relationship between CEOs and just think of senior executives in companies and their application development and delivery leaders. Those are the software leaders. Sometimes the CIO plays the role of the software leader. In this research, we found that software organizations needed much greater support and involvement and collaboration with their senior executives than they typically were getting. And did this research and figured out that in order for that relationship to really thrive and for it to be, for the strategies to be put into place, we really needed to focus on shared values. At the bottom of the slide, you'll see at the core of our shared values is that both the CEO or senior executive and the software leader understand software's value to the business's goals and the business's imperatives. This is often not the case. Software seems to be off somehow, or technology seems to be off somehow, certainly off in terms of schedule, but oftentimes there's just many, many misinterpretations. We've all got to agree and align on our need to invest in people. We've got to have the right people, the right expertise, and we've got to keep our labor base really thriving. And you can see the other shared values here that we advocate for a strategy that's really going to further this. And then on the top, what we've got is is 4 pairs of commitments essentially, and I've highlighted the first one and the third one as being particularly important for this strategy. One is that the CEO commits to a very clear and direct communication of the business's goals and priorities, and the app dev leader commits to opening the software processes to the business, so the business leaders can see what's being built, what the schedules really are, what the budgets really are, et cetera. No more black box. It's got to be transparent. And then also cross-silo teamwork have to be matched with flexible delivery processes. One of the biggest problems that we've got in solving digital business is overcoming our silos. And we'll hear later on in the webinar of an example of that, where companies are automating operations and informing operations by crossing what today are silos. So that's a strategy view. It's very, very different. It's a very, very different way of thinking and operating about software and business, but we've come to believe it's absolutely crucial. Now, there's a strategy, but then there's tactics. And so let's talk about the tactics. And first among those is low code. Low code development platforms are a way to dramatically improve business and software and IT alignment. What do we mean by low code platforms? Well, this is the definition that Clay Richardson and I came up with 6-7 years ago. It's 2 things. There's a development approach that relies on visual modeling, visual diagramming, creation of forms, right? What you see is what you get kind of forms, as opposed to coding. The goal is do dramatically less coding and do much, much more work using visual tooling. And then there's a business model aspect to this as well. Low code platforms can be adopted at a low initial cost in time, training, and money. And the customer then expands their financial commitment to the product as they deliver more and more applications. It's essentially a pay-as-you-grow business model. Visual tooling, in case that's a confusing term to you, it's simply going from this, writing code, to something like this. Rather than write code, you're actually diagramming, and guess what? A business person can look at a diagram like this and tell you whether or not it's right, or tell you whether or not it's productive, or tell you whether or not it meets their goals. They can't look at code and understand what's going on. So it's a very, very important advance. Low-code adoption is growing. We have data at Forrester on developer adoption of low-code. Developers are a very important audience here that's driving this market. So you can see here in between 2018 and 2019 in our worldwide developer survey, the adoption of low-code rose. It's about a quarter of developers worldwide who are now working in low-code at least part of the time. And you can see there's another 25% or so that are planning to within the next 12 months. So very nice growth rate here. And then look at the finding on not interested or interested in no immediate plans. That's a 7% drop in a single year. That's a pretty substantial drop. So the number of developers who turn up their nose, who poo-poo the value of low code is dropping. The number of developers who are adopting is rising. Now, one thing that's very important to recognize is that low-code development platforms have become a very important driver of growth software for growth and innovation. And I think that's really portrayed very well on this chart. So what we've done is we took the developer data, the developer survey data, and we separated developers into the two major groups. Those who had adopted low code or planned to adopt low code, those are the light green circles, and those who had no plans to adopt or hadn't adopted, those are the green circles in the middle. We'll look at, and then we compared those two groups against their critical priorities. What are the priorities that really drive their work? And you can see the developers that are working on low code or planning to are much, much more closely associated with innovation and with customer interaction, advancement, and in growth, new products and new services. This is very important. Low code has become a very important means for business growth and innovation, much, much more so than traditional development. There's a second very important reason to adopt, innovation being the first, and that is business alignment. When we first started doing this research into low code, and we would ask developers, why are you adopting low code? They always would tell us speed. We've got to deliver software faster, and we've got to deliver more software. So speed is of the essence. Well, now look at 2018, 2019, speed is kind of assumed. But what they're really trying to do is get alignment by bringing low code in, and oftentimes it's a developer who is then working with that low code platform in a business unit. Why would a developer be assigned to a business unit rather than work in central IT? So that that developer can better understand that business unit's needs and be very, very closely connected, rise and fall of opportunities and risks within that business, and help to respond with software much, much more quickly. So speed is assumed. Alignment is now the top goal, the top reason to adopt. But there's more. We've been talking about developers. What about business people? Business people are an important piece of the puzzle here for two reasons. First, we never have enough developers, and I don't think we ever will, to meet all of the software needs that our businesses have. We've got to go and find ways to expand the labor force we've got to do software. Secondly, business people do software work today. They just do it outside of the strategy. So that's why we call it shadow IT or rogue IT. It's business people working with spreadsheets or desktop databases or cloud services and they are not governed. Their work is not governed at all as within the software strategy. Low code platforms give us the opportunity to bring that work onto managed platforms. So first, we can basically empower people. We can give them more than a spreadsheet gives them in order to do the work they need to do, to gather data or report on data or build workflows or whatever it is they're doing. Secondly, because that work is now on a managed platform, we can see it. We can shut down projects, shut down apps that aren't being used, or we can impose security guardrails on the work. We can impose conventions, usage conventions, development conventions on the work. basically expand the labor force to create the software we need, and we can take advantage of that labor force in a governed fashion rather than outside of the software strategy. Now, many sort of patterns out there for incorporating business people or citizen developers into the software strategy. And what I'm showing here on the slide are the two extremes. On the left-hand side, you see a very, very slight connection or a very slight involvement by the business people in the software strategy. They are using low-code platforms to convey their requirements to a developer. So rather than write down their requirements in a Word document, they build a prototype. They build a prototype of a screen or a flow or a data model or some other representation of the software they need. And then they pass that along to a developer who then has a view of those requirements that is much more accurate than a Word document and can go ahead and build the application. And they'll come back and they'll show the business person the initial designs, and they'll come back for user acceptance testing. But that's about it. There's a very slight involvement of the business person. On the other extreme, on the right-hand side of diagram, you see business people building, delivering, and managing their own applications without the help of developers or with minimal help from developers. That may sound crazy, but it's not. There are organizations out there, probably your organization, where there are business people who are actually delivering apps today, or they're capable of delivering apps today, but they're just not allowed to. And of course, in between these two extremes, there are lots of other patterns that can evolve. All thanks to low-code platforms. So here are 5 examples of applications that I've seen in my work that were delivered by business people without any IT support, none whatsoever. And you can see these are substantial applications. They're important to the business, substantial applications. They help to automate business operations, and they also span insurance, manufacturing, custom manufacturing, which is what Flavor and Fragrances is, real estate management, facilities management, a manufacturer of vehicles, and then a healthcare system, a clinical system running hospitals and so forth. And you can see the use cases here. In the interest of time, I won't elaborate on them, but they're very substantial. And again, they were built by business people without developer support. Now, that can happen, and when it does, it's a beautiful thing. But in the majority of cases, clients want business people who are working in software to have the support and guidance of software professionals, of developers. And this, I think, is going to be the majority case. So what we really need to go for is a very collaborative relationship between business units and software development organizations. And I've portrayed that on this slide. At the bottom of the slide, we have our developers. They are expert and they know about things like how to implement a platform and how to configure a platform to make it secure, how to configure it for scale, and so forth. They understand structure or architecture. The structure or the architecture of applications is very important to their sustainability and their security and so forth. Business people don't really understand application architecture. They understand their data. They understand their processes. But they need help when it comes to structuring an application that's going to perform well and be sustainable over many changes over time. Tech experts understand integration. Business people don't understand that at all. They understand security. Again, business people don't understand that. And lastly, surprisingly, business people aren't very good at structuring software projects. Which requirements should we satisfy first? Which ones should we do later? Software professionals are really good at this. They've been part of their world for years. By the same token, business people, as I said, they understand their data, they understand their processes, their workflows, they understand their priorities. They have great ideas about how software can advance their efficiency or their customer satisfaction or their share of wallet or whatever it happens to be. They understand what's really important. Where's the value and where's the value now and what can we defer? And then lastly, they understand which changes need to be made to keep up with markets and keep up with policies and regulatory constraints. They know what those are, and and oftentimes are capable of implementing them. So what you've got here is essentially two pools of expertise that, if we can organize ourselves effectively, we can bring together, and both sides can contribute. Both groups can contribute their value to successful software projects. Last thing I'll note here is governance. I've mentioned that word once before. It's a word nobody likes, but it's really important. And governance in low code is different than it is for traditional development. It has to be much more flexible than traditional development, because low code platforms allow projects to be delivered so much more quickly and so much more iteratively than traditional development does. And so what you really want to do is focus on these 5 policies, define the policies, and then define mechanisms to enforce them. So I try to keep things simple. So it's who, what, when, where, how, and who means who are we going to allow to do the work? To the earlier point, are we going to allow business people to build and deploy applications themselves? A lot of organizations don't start there. Most don't start there. They start with their developers, and then they work from there. Sometimes they start with the citizen developer, but they'll start with a subset, just this one department or this one person that we trust. Sometimes they'll say, we're going to set up a center of excellence, and we're going to learn what we can do here and how to control the risks, and so forth. And the policies apply to what types of use cases you deliver, what the priorities are of different use cases. But governance is really, really important here. Without governance, the risk of just chaos breaking out is actually quite high. And so with that, thank you for your attention. I hope I've helped, and I'll turn it back over.
So we'll move to the questions part. How can enterprises use Creator for specific use cases? And the question is for Haider.
Okay. So as I said in my presentation, right? So there are different ways enterprises are trying to use the Zoho Creator platform. So one scenario is they're trying to really take one process at a time and try to modernize it using the Zoho Creator platform. And there are enterprises where their entire line of business being built on Creator. For example, you saw the Olive ERP, which I showcased in my presentation. And there is another enterprise usage where they want to really, for the legacy application, they want to modernize it. So they slap Zoho Creator as a layer on top of the legacy application, and they try to expose some of the information lying inside the legacy application using a modern web application and mobile application. So these are different ways in which enterprises can leverage a low-code platform like Creator. And we have another type of users where a complete non-programmer able to build a full-blown application, like an SMB, as you said. An entrepreneur or a founder of a company should be able to put all the process together and build a meaningful application. So these are different scenarios where Creator can be used inside the organization to embrace the digital transformation in an enterprise.
Thanks, Haider, for that. John, we have a question for you. Would you recommend internal Center of Excellence teams to spread the adoption of low-code platforms?
Center of Excellence is a good strategy to start. One of the, as we've been describing this phenomenon and the opportunity, we've highlighted some of the organizational challenges, some of the new patterns of working that arise, and governance is obviously very important here. Center of Excellence is a great way to learn in a low-risk environment. Basically put folks in, presumably business folks, but technical folks as well, who understand software projects. Let them start working with one or more platforms, with, in delivering projects, learn the ins and outs of the platform, learn how to deliver projects and change management, figure out what a good development process and good conventions are and how to govern, and then take it to the whole organization. So it's a really good way to get started because you can experiment and figure out what works for you, but do not get stuck in a center of excellence. If the center of excellence becomes just another bureaucracy and just another bottleneck in delivering applications, that's not good either. So I think the best thing to do is view it as a way to get started, but eventually the center of excellence, part of its job is to distribute its learnings throughout the organization and to essentially go away.
Thanks, John, for that. There is one more question. Haider, this is for you. What is the pricing model for Creator? Is it based on users or number of applications?
No, we don't limit by number of application. All the pricing plans what we have for Creator let users to create unlimited application, because as part of digital transformation, we don't want to have any barrier in terms of number of applications created inside an organization, but the pricing model is based on number of users. And also in the users, it is internal users, the employees versus the customers. So we have a customer portal users as a separate pricing plan, and then you have the internal users. So because we cannot treat a customer logging into a customer portal as equal as an employee trying to really use Creator as a backend and trying to live on the custom application, the Creator application. So we have to differentiate the pricing model based on the internal users or based on the customer portal users.
Thanks, Haider. Thank you very much. Just one final question. Again, Haider, this is for you. For a platform like Creator, are there limitations in terms of scale or number of users or data, etc.?
Absolutely not. So that's the beauty of this whole cloud-based low-code platform. Even John has reiterated that. So we take care of the complete scalability. As I mentioned in my presentation, there are customers who have billions of records, and there are customers who have really built application for, let's say, used to buy 30,000 users day in, day out. Think about it. So daily you have real-time users logging into the system, thousands of users logging into the system. In terms of number of users, in terms of the number of records and the application size, and in terms of number of files, so everything will be taken care of with low-code, and Creator is really catering to such large enterprises where you have 30,000 users using day in, day out and billion records inside the Creator system.
Thank you very much, Haider. Thank you, Laila. Thank you, John.